Worst Roommate Ever Season 2 is a lot darker than Season 1. The stories are a lot more intense, but the first one's very intense. Episode 1, My BFF Tried to Kill Me. It's very intense, absolutely, but it's not as dark as some of the other ones. I'm going to get into episode 1 today, but if you guys want me to do some of the other ones, I will not do episode 2 because it has to do with an elderly person. And I can't handle that. I can't handle anything with the older people. It just reminds me of like my dad, my grandma. I can't do that. No, 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 no. But I could do like 3 and 4, which are, they're pretty, 3's crazy, but like 4 is like dark. But obviously like good to watch because I love dark true crime, but dark nonetheless. So let's get into episode 1 now. My BFF Tried to Kill Me. So this story takes place in Salt Lake City, and Rachel is our main character, if you will, a whole person. She's a real person, but she is the protagonist of this story. When she was 22, she was now divorced. She had had a quick marriage with the man who sounded abusive, whether it just be verbal or not. It sounded very bad. So she is newly divorced and is living with her parents. She had to move back in with her parents. Oh, I'm so itchy. And was kind of low on herself, down on herself, low self-esteem. And she meets this woman named Janie in 1995. This is taking place. So in 1995, she's divorced. She meets Janie. She's living with her parents. And the way Rachel describes this friendship is she says that Janie would let her be her. And she was used to being constantly criticized. So that's what the friendship was kind of based on, which let's put a pin in that. Because she was also very controlling. But Janie did live alone. She had an apartment and she claimed that she had just had her place broken into and didn't want to live there by herself anymore. So she offered Rachel move in with her. I don't believe a word that comes out of this woman's mouth, this woman, Janie. So I would like to see if someone really did try to break into her apartment or did break in or whatever she's claiming, because I feel like all of this was a ploy to take Rachel's life, basically. Not literally, but like you'll see. As Rachel explains the dynamics of the friendship, she says that Janie just knew things like finances and bills. So she was teaching Rachel how to do those things. Well, the other version of that is she was controlling everything, right? But she says those were her strengths. Rachel's like, those were Janie's strengths, was the bills and being an adult. My strengths were helping her make friends because she was just really socially awkward. But then we meet a friend of Rachel's, her now a doctor, Dr. Robin. And she's like, there was always this undercurrent of possessiveness, she said. Like if she was making a friend with someone or if she said she liked someone, you could see Janie get weird about it. Well, Rachel meets a guy and falls in love with this guy, and Janie would be really, as Rachel puts it, aggressive in her opinions of him. And she just saw a very dark side of Janie all of a sudden. And this is like in the beginning of their friendship, basically. And there was an example she gave of if she was watching a movie with this boyfriend, Janie would be at the bottom of the stairs yelling super loud, like, turn it down, the movie's too loud, like screaming and embarrass her. But then when Rachel would be like, what is going on? Why are you doing this? She would just go, I'm just protective of you because, I think he's a player. And Rachel explains this experience for her as, I felt bad, for even being upset with her because she was just trying to protect me. And I'm like, wow, even still, you're looking back on it like that. And Dr. Robin was like, no, I knew something. I thought she was in love with her. And Rachel's like, yeah, I know people thought she was in love with me, but she wasn't. But then she would get upset when I made friends. She would like almost incoherently start screaming at me in front of the person. She would call me a whore. When I would ask her, do you just not like me? She would say, you're my family. I don't want to lose you. And so then Rachel just adapts her life to that. So clearly Rachel has a habit of codependent situations. Okay, so she does say, I went from living with my parents to college and then in with the husband who then I divorced and then back in with the parents and then in with Janie. So Rachel's never been able to just take care of herself on her own. I mean, she is young at this point. She is young. But this is crazy behavior. Having a friend call you a whore in front of the other person that they're like mad about is really wild. And then to be like, oh, but I don't want to lose you. You're my family. It's like, okay, but that's fucked up. But it's interesting hearing Rachel tell this story now because she's not seeing that she had a pattern of picking people who were really critical, because that's being really jealous and stuff. That's very abusive. Those are signs of abuse. And so she wasn't even able to recognize that this isn't normal. So Rachel slims down her social activities just to make Janie happy. Probably because it's like, you don't maybe do it consciously, but it's like, oh, I don't want her to get upset. So just never mind. I won't do that, which is very dangerous to do. This is called isolating, because she goes, I felt like I was being a bad person. Like that is very common in abusive dynamics where they're doing something bad and you then think you're doing something wrong and you keep blaming yourself for everything. So, okay. So now we fast forward to January 2010. Rachel had been a paramedic for 6 years. Everyone has the best things to say about Rachel. She was the life of the party. Everyone loved her, and she was a paramedic. However, she hurts her back, most likely from all the stuff you do as a paramedic. But she hurts her back, and all the restrictions she's given make it so that she cannot return to work, because it's like you can't lift over 30 pounds. You can't put things above. Probably, you know what I mean? All this stuff. That's probably how she hurt her back, was doing all those things. So now she cannot contribute financially. And so she's out of work. She's in pain. She can't contribute financially. And she finds out she's pregnant. So now she is 100% dependent on Janie. And Janie loves this, okay? She loves the control. So she has to go. All she says, by the way, about the father is the biological father opted out, which was a very gentle way of, I'm sure she didn't want to maybe blast the father. I don't know, but I have questions. But regardless, she has the child, and Ryder is, as she describes, magic. I can't remember how old she said he was, but when in the middle of her interview, he comes and sits on her lap, and he is autistic, nonverbal, but she sang to him, which apparently there's a different pathway in the brain or something that they can process. So he can sing back to her, sing songs back to her, which is very sweet. But during this period of time, it's between 2015 and 2018, I believe. Rachel has to get 7 different back surgeries. 7 during this time. So what happens when she gets a surgery? So for example, she herniates a disc during delivery with Ryder. So she's got to get surgery on it, and she's on the pain pills, and she's all out of it, and she's in pain too. And so she can't really take care of Ryder, and Janie kind of steps in and is taking care of Ryder. Okay. And Rachel's grateful for this. She's like, I can live here. I'm not contributing financially. You're taking care of my son. This is great for me. But also, that's where we're at here. Then Rachel gets a life insurance policy because if anything happens to her, she needs to make sure that they could take care of Ryder. Well, the person who would get the money would be whoever was going to be granted guardianship. And so Janie's like, that's obviously Janie for now, because Janie was literally taking care of Ryder all the time. But Rachel starts to notice that Janie's getting pretty comfortable, a little too comfortable. So if, let's say, Rachel could go to a school event, she'd show up and everyone would know who Janie was. Janie knew the principal, knew the teachers, knew the other parents, and let them all think that she was Ryder's parent, which Rachel claims that kind of threw her off a little bit. But what is she going to do? She literally is living there like high on pain pills because she's in so much actual pain. Rachel's also on disability, which allows Janie to enroll in some program where she was able to get paid to help Rachel with Ryder. It's something called respite. And Rachel says that this becomes a, quote, significant part of Janie's income. So now she's got the life insurance policy. She's getting this money over here. So, okay. But Rachel was having to take a lot of pain medication and didn't want to ever like double up on it because sometimes you forget when you're taking the meds. So she has Janie administer them to her and keep the log and all of that. So, So the fact that Rachel is in pain is normal and is high on the pills and can't really get out of bed, sure, but it was an extreme thing. But we're going to get to what was really happening. We're going to let that unfold because anyway, we're going to let that unfold as the story continues. When Janie took Ryder to work with her one day, Rachel's home and she checks the mail. And then there's a letter from like the court or something saying that Ryder had been assigned a guardian ad litem for a custody case. Don't ask me to explain what that is, but she said it real fast and I could have looked it up, but I didn't. But in the filing, it was claiming that Janie is worried about Ryder's safety with Rachel in the home. So Rachel gives Janie a call and Janie's like, "Hi, what you doing? Oh my God, you're up." But then she goes, "Are you suing me for custody?" And Janie just goes, "Yes," and hangs up. Rachel calls 911, like, "Hi, this woman has my son, won't bring him back. Like, help me." So they're like, "Okay, we got it." Then they call back Rachel and go, "Okay, well, so you haven't been served yet, but she has filed a protective order against you." Rachel's like, "I can barely walk. I still have stitches in from surgery. I am in no way a threat or a danger to anyone." But they tell her, unfortunately, because it's her house, you need to leave the home. And Ryder stays there with Janie. I mean, can you even believe that? So Rachel goes to a hotel and Child Protective Services has been contacted. So they come to do an interview with her. Well, the agents, like, or whatever they call them, is like, "She told us you were a drug addict and you just weren't taking care of your kid." But it's pretty clear to them that that is not the case. When they meet Rachel, within like seconds of talking to her, they're like, "Wait a minute, this doesn't sound right." And they can also tell that she's had surgery. And so they're like, "She didn't even mention the surgeries. She was just acting like you were here popping pain meds and addicted to pain meds." So 10 days after all this happens, she does get Ryder back. However, this is just where it was so sad. I mean, it's already sad, but it's sad. Rachel's mom had passed away. Her dad had moved across the country and literally nowhere else for her to go but a family shelter. And Rachel's very careful not to say anything bad about that family shelter. She's like, "They do great work. However, I have an autistic son." So he was not happy being there. You know, he regressed while he was there. So, and imagine Rachel is having to constantly tell him, because he kept going, "I want to go home. I want to go home." She's like, "We can't go home. We can't go home." So she's getting beat down. 6 weeks into the living at the shelter, Janie calls. So she keeps catching her at these desperate times. And I'm like, where are your friends? Where is your family? My God, can really no one help? This is tough, man. This is tough. So Janie's like, "I want to see Ryder," and apologizes and said she did everything she did was because I thought you were going to leave me. And Rachel, I'm telling you, she was just excited to have a place for Ryder to go back to, I think. Like, how that's exhausting. She can't work. She's in pain. She's got the surgery. Like, so when Janie doesn't seem all dark and scary anymore, Rachel believes it. Now, I would say, "Girl, don't you have another option?" But she literally didn't. She was in a family shelter with her autistic son. So, no, this is bad. I am prepping for the live show. I got to be feeling and looking my best. So that means I need to be eating better than I tend to eat. So I am making sure my Hungry Root orders are in and on time. Hungry Root sends you fresh, high quality groceries that is so customizable. When you start Hungry Root, you take a little quiz, they figure out your goals, what kind of food you like, etc. And then every week, they prep a cart for you based on those preferences. But I personally just like to clear the cart and go shopping in the aisles. They have the best brands of snacks, healthy snacks, or like healthy alternative snacks to foods that I would be gorging on. They also have supplements, they have vitamins, and they have full meals. So sometimes when I feel like once in a while I should maybe cook myself a meal, I will go through and I'll look up meals that are done in 5 minutes or less or require no appliances. But you can do anything you want. You can search based on maybe you like to cook. Maybe you hate this type of food. They'll never show it to you. But every week it's delivered, fresh, packed very well, because not all companies pack them well. And the thing is that everything from Hungry Root follows the same simple standard. It's got to taste good, it's got to be quick to make, and contain whole, trusted ingredient. Right now, Hungry Root is offering She's Speaking with Emily Hanks listeners 40% off your first delivery and free veggies for life. Just go to hungryroot.com/shespeaks to get 40% off your first delivery and get your free veggies. That's hungryroot.com/shespeaks. Don't forget to use our link so they know we sent you. Do you remember the show The Dog Whisperer with Cesar Millan? I freaking loved that show. Cesar Millan would transform those dogs. I would be bawling. So if there's one thing he knows, it's dogs, right? Well, I was very excited to find out what Cesar Millan feeds his own dogs. It's Nature's Blend from Dr. Marty Pets. He relies on this freeze-dried raw food to keep his own pack healthy, and they sent me a sample of the dog food and the cat food. So I gave the cat food to my girls and the dog food over to my sister. She has 3 dogs. Now, her dogs can tend to get skin issues, one dog in particular, like hot spots and things. She said since feeding her dogs Dr. Marty's, she's noticed an improvement. I have noticed an improvement in my girls' coats, too. And my girls seem to be more excited to eat this food than the old dry food, so I can't wait for your dog to try it. For a limited time, enjoy up to 54% off Nature's Blend, and you get a free bag of Cod Krispies, which is their best-selling wild-caught cod skin treats. Just go to drmartypets.com/shespeaks. Every order is backed with a 90-day money-back promise. So if you want to support your dog's digestion, soft coat, and healthy lifespan, go to drmartypets.com/shespeaks today. Your dog will thank you. All dogs are unique. Your dog's results can and will vary. Obviously, Ryder starts doing better once they're back in this home, but guess what? Rachel has to get another surgery. She's like, I waited enough time to see if we were, going to stay there. And it seemed like it was good. So I get the surgery. It was like already planned. She'd already had to get the surgery. Now it's 2019. April 2019, she gets the surgery. Janie was tasked with cleaning her incision because it was in her neck and Rachel couldn't reach it. Listen, I'm so sorry. This is where I'm like, Rachel, girl, Janie, it was always hurting. I mean, obviously it's an incision, but it was hurting. And even with Janie treating it, and sometimes Janie would rub it and would say, and like Rachel doesn't question it for any reason. She's like, okay, you're just rubbing it. But she was clearly, but it kept hurting the incision area. It kept hurting and hurting. How do you not pick up a mirror? I guess maybe she couldn't because she had the surgery. So Janie, though, is like, it looks fine. What do you mean? I'm treating it. It looks great. It looks totally normal. Well, finally, Rachel insists, like for the 1,000th time, I've got to go to the doctor. Like, I've got to do that. She says this doctor practically jumps back and is like, this is a massive infection. You have to go to the ER right now. And then they cultured the infection and it came back as MRSA. MRSA is a staph infection. And now after, if anyone here watches Real Housewives of Orange County, Vicki Gunvalson showed up in the last episode saying that she had a staph infection but checked herself out of the hospital anyway. And now I'm getting more staph infection stories than ever. I don't know if that's because like that happened and I'm thinking about it, but like, so now I'm even more weirded out that Vicki did that, Vicki Gunvalson, because MRSA, if you contract it, it's resistant to antibiotics. It's basically like flesh eating. So it's often contracted in hospitals though. So they assume that's where she picked it up. The medicine, though, that they give her starts attacking her white blood cells. She gets very ill. She thinks she's going to die. She's like, here, this is it. This is it. I'm going to die. Then it seemed like, wow, she's going to get better. So they release her and she goes back home. So she's recovering at home and she's watching a true crime show with Janie. And someone in the show, it's like a nurse kills someone using poison. And Rachel, unbeknownst to her, she's giving Janie this idea. She goes, that's so stupid that a nurse would do that. It's going to show up in an autopsy. You know, you would think what she would do is just give her insulin, really, because that can show up in the body naturally and it wouldn't be as obvious. Literally, Janie goes, huh. Good to know. Okay. It's June 9th. It's June 9th, 2019. Surgery she had was in April of this month, which was that's 2 months prior. Rachel says, the last thing I remember is Janie giving me some medication. And then the next thing I know, I'm waking up in the hospital being told that my blood glucose level is 13, or I don't know what they said. So, and she says, since I'm not diabetic, nor do I have any diabetic issues, this was shocking because the normal number should be between 80 and 100. This bitch was at 13. So Janie at the hospital, she's the one who called the hospital, she calls Rachel's sister, Bet, I believe her name is. Yeah, Bet. And so Bet shows up. Bet's a nurse. So she's asking all the questions. Is there any insulin anywhere? Is one of the questions. Janie, though, was emotionless and was just sitting there, like almost not blinking. Bet's crying, didn't comfort her, just sat there. Now Bet was onto her. Bet was like, this is something crazy. But clearly, Bet is not in a position to be helping Rachel because at this point, she would have been helping Rachel and not letting her live in a family shelter. But whatever Bet's story is, like she could only do so much. And Rachel says, my sister told me that Janie seemed almost mad that I had survived. And I said, oh, that's just grief. She's just socially awkward. She's just a little strange. That's just grief. And then she goes, I think there were a lot of red flags that I missed. That is the understatement of your life, Rachel. Yeah. Yeah. If I'm in the hospital and this woman who's already tried to get custody of my kid, claiming I was an addict and claiming and not even mentioning the surgeries. Yeah, no, I would be like, okay, she did what? So, okay. So while she's in the hospital, she actually starts to get better, to Janie's dismay. So then Rachel goes home on a Sunday, back in the hospital Tuesday, same thing. Wakes up, no idea what's happened. She's just in the hospital. At this point, her friend Dr. Robin is thinking, is Rachel doing this to herself for the attention? Because she was getting a lot of attention. She's posting on social media about her journey and this could be cancer and da-da-da-da-da. And so she even asks her, like, are you just doing this? But the only answer she gets, because Rachel denies it, the only answer she's getting back is it's something to do with you have to be receiving insulin somewhere. Somehow you're getting more insulin than you should be. You're receiving it outside of whatever naturally occurring insulin there is in the body. Something's going on. Rachel's literally scooping spoonfuls of sugar in her mouth so that she wakes up. Because before bed was when she'd go into these like glucose coma things. So yeah, repeated calls to the hospital. She would get well in the hospital, go back home, start thriving, but then she would fall back ill again, back in the hospital. So now we are in December of 2019. So Rachel's in and out of the hospital, doing all that stuff. So it's December 2019. We're introduced to Steve Cadiz, I believe, whatever. He's an FBI guy. And at first I was like, what the hell are we doing here? He says he is a coordinator for the Weapons of Mass Destruction program in Salt Lake City. I was like, what the fuck? Well, this covers chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and explosive weapons of mass destruction. I'm like, oh, like the MRSA or whatever. I still had no idea where this was going. So an FBI agent was posing undercover on the dark web. And lead prosecutor Michael Gadd described the dark web, and I've never been more afraid of something. I was like, oh, we are not going to the dark web. No. He says an evil place. We don't go there. But this is where you go and you buy the scary stuff. And so an undercover FBI agent was posing as someone selling VRSA, and they got a buyer. And guess who it is? Jamie Lynn Ridd, which is her full name, obviously. So we meet Sergeant Jen in the FBI as well, and she's on the case. She's looking through, like, let's look into this Janie character, and she finds that custody filing from whenever that was, 2014 or something, and this makes them start putting things together. They're like, well, she wanted someone's kid. Okay, what's happening here? Meanwhile, this is how Rachel describes December of 2019. She says that Janie was darker than ever to her. She seemed detached, and she actually was like leaving Ryder alone, like not even, but in situations that could have been dangerous. I mean, he's special needs, so you can't like leave him alone really ever, but especially anyway. So Janie, though, was still listed as the guardian of Ryder, and the behavior was so alarming to Rachel that she switched the will to say her dad would be the one to get custody, which he obviously was a little worried about because he's like, I'm an old man. I'm not going to be able to, he needs a lot of care. So, but Rachel's like, I got to get out of here. So she actually tells Janie, I think it's time for us to find our own place and move. But Janie goes, please just wait till the 25th. Okay, why the 25th? Well, now the FBI, now they have sent a fake VRSA package, which Janie requested to be overnighted. Janie picks up this package from the UPS store. Obviously, she wouldn't have put her address in there, right? So she picks it up from the UPS store. The FBI is surveilling the parking lot. She comes in. They follow her. They go to her office. They confront her right there in the office. And they say, did you pick up a package from the UPS store earlier? And she says, I did pick up a package. It was some coffee beans. And the guy's like, okay, are you sure about that? And then she's like, well, why? Is there something weird inside of it? And the agent's like, I'm going to give her one more shot to tell me the truth. So she says, okay, this is what she said. I went to this site and it is biological, one that you can make beer with. He's like, oh, okay. So have you bought all the other supplies to make the beer? And she goes, no, I've never done this before. I was going to make it for New Year's Eve. She finally admits, though, that she did buy a form of staff to, quote, help her friend Rachel. Huh? However, when they ask, what were you going to do with the VRSA? Were you going to give it to your friend? She goes, no, I would never use it on Rachel. Well, so then what did you get it for Rachel to do then? Not doing too good here. She's my best friend. I love her like a sister. Well, they arrest her because they're like, you attempted to purchase biological warfare or whatever it's classified as. Well, now they got to go tell Rachel. So December 18th, the FBI shows up and they're issuing a search warrant because they need to see if she's got anything else in the house. Yeah. But at first they don't. So imagine Rachel doesn't know any of this. She doesn't have a clue what the hell. Here comes the FBI agents. They're like, we have a search warrant. She's like, okay. They're asking her questions and she's like, they're asking me questions like, where do you have packages delivered to? Or no, she doesn't do science experiments. No, she doesn't make beer. You're like, what the fuck? This is what the search warrant's about? Beer? What are you talking about? Then when Rachel realizes, though, Janie's the one in trouble, because she's like, what is this about? Like, is she in trouble? And they say, yeah. She goes, no, she would never. She would never. Like, it still hadn't clicked for her what was happening. Still hadn't clicked. They have to break it to her very gently. And so she's like, no, okay, what do you guys, so MRSA didn't kill me, so she's going to try VRSA? There's just no way. Absolutely not. And they go, well, this isn't the first thing she's ordered off the dark web. And then it clicks for Rachel. And she goes, wait, what did she order off the dark web? Can she order insulin? Now it clicked. And they're like, she sure can. Then Rachel tells them all about her glucose episodes. Well, Janie had been purchasing sedatives and insulin injector pens. That's what she'd been purchasing. So they find one of the injector pens with Rachel's DNA. So they're like, okay, that's proof that she was using it on Rachel. But what Janie would do with it was ketamine that she was getting, is she would put it in with the pain meds that Rachel was taking. So it would make her even more like catatonic. And that also so that she wouldn't feel her injecting the insulin. So, and then the officer or the FBI guy goes, I think Janie tried to kill Rachel at least 5 times in the course of a year. That's insane. In court, Rachel actually says she thought, man, if I had been a better friend, if I could have helped her, maybe she wouldn't get to this point. Girl. Janie was sentenced to the weirdest sentence, 1 to 20 years. Huh? And then it's very ominous. This last shot is so super ominous. It's a call from Janie from jail or from prison going, I know what's going to happen. I'm going to get out of here, and he needs to be away from her. He needs to come back to me now. And she only serves she only served 25 months. She's released in January of 2022. And the last shot is Rachel holding her son in like the backyard. And the POV is like through the trees, almost as if Janie's coming. And then it just cuts out. So we need to keep an eye on her then, yeah? Because what the fuck? Whoa. Oh, whoa. So what is that? What? Because it's clear Janie had issues that were not looked at, and Rachel should have never stayed her friend. But Janie made it seem like it was that codependent thing. Rachel thought she needed someone to take care of her, and she fucking did, unfortunately. But it's almost like Janie saw it from the beginning. I don't know if I believe anyone tried to break into her apartment, and that's why she wanted Rachel to move in. From 1995, I don't believe that story. She just clocked her and then wanted Ryder. What is that? Psychologists, weigh in. I'm sure there have been other videos made already on that about like psychologists weighing in on what the hell that was. Anyhow, whoa. So, okay. Let me know if you guys want me to cover either episodes 3 or 4 or both next. Or if there's another thing you're looking at. Either comment on this video if you're watching on YouTube, or leave a comment on on Instagram. I have my schedule pinned. You can leave a comment there. I would say DM me, but they will get lost. My DMs, I don't know what the fuck is happening. It's been a long time now. And I keep shaking my phone and saying, report a problem. And it doesn't know what I'm talking about. So, okay. Anywho, love you guys. Mean it. I'll see you next time. Bye. Thanks for tuning in to She's Speaking with Emily Hanks. This show is produced, hosted, and edited by me, Emily, and brought to you in partnership with Cloud 10 Media. If you are looking for bonus content, check out the Patreon. The link is in the description. To show some support, you can hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Another free way to support the pod, please rate and/or review on whatever platform you listen. It's free, and it helps the algorithm or something. You could also head to buymeacoffee.com/shespeaks and buy me a coffee or 2. Make sure you're following me on all social medias. I am She's Speaking with Emily Hanks across all platforms: Threads, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. That's it. Thank you guys. See you soon.